Good morning, trumpet nom. Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are. And welcome back to the channel formerly known as Lost Begotten, now Easy Reefers. Where we repeatedly play out the scenario of just because people should do something doesn't necessarily mean they're going to do it. But I've always made a distinction between things that I predict based on analyzing the directions of particles, and things that should be. There's a difference between a prediction based on things that happened and things that are happening, objects in motion, ideas, thoughts, processes in motion, continuing to be and taking the direction that they are. There's a difference between that and, say, whether or not Trump should be indicted or impeached. He needs to be let out of the White House in handcuffs. He cannot be impeached. This is a matter of should, not a matter of predictability. If I had to predict, cynically, Trump's going to be in office until Elon Musk gets elected. Or some stupid fucking thing like that. But that's a big difference between what, will probably happen, because, shit sucks, and what should happen if people, got their heads out of their asses and started trying to make it better, You see, it all comes down to what's called a Justice Department guideline when it comes to Trump being impeached. Kind of like the United States does not torture memo. That was a Justice Department guideline. That was a legal opinion from the Office of White House Counsel, basically. Which Alberto Gonzales was acting as when he was Attorney General. That's a hyperbolic way of looking at it, but it's pretty much how it happened. They issued a legal opinion. I think Gonzales did it first when he was a White House lawyer before becoming the Attorney General of the fucking United States. But, I guess it's better than being a CNN pundit. And also, that Comey announcement? How Comey said, we're investigating Hillary Clinton, and I've got to say this. Boy, that whole thing seems very suspicious. In fact, it's more Comey's announcement than anything that makes me think that there's a shadow investigation going on here. Because it's very hard to reconcile all this talk about not indicting a president because of Justice Department guidelines, when it's a very similar Justice Department guideline that in fact states you're not supposed to reveal any details of an ongoing investigation. You're not even supposed to acknowledge an ongoing investigation. But Comey just happened to come out and say not only that Hillary was being indicted, but then gave an opinion which apparently Peter Strzok rewrote and made seem less damaging. There should have been no opinion to begin with. That's the whole reason why that seems suspicious. Not Peter Strzok's dumbing down of the message. The fact that there was any opinionated message attached to an Attorney General's statement about an investigation wrapping up with no indictments returned. That's really fucking weird. As if the outcome they had planned was to keep Hillary Clinton from getting elected so that they could pursue this investigation. You know, I think from the moment we were attacked on 9/11, we could have been under some different management. It could have diverted back to like being like a council of Clinton and Reagan and Bush Sr. during the time of Bush. During Obama, it could have very well been the reason why Obama's policies seem to get implemented, or the last year of the Bush administration seemed to kind of already be compromising with the Democrats. Is because behind the scenes there's been this tendency for the presidents to work together. And then on 9/11, I would hope they would do something like have some sort of continuity of government plan involving the former presidents and their staffs, etc. Former White House Joint Chiefs. Because it would just be smart to do. And then you have this weird thing that Comey did, man. And then not just the whole thing about the email investigation. Then, we found that there may be Anthony Weiner's emails on Huma Abedi's laptop and shit like that. Like, given those kind of details, imagine if Mueller was given those kind of details about Trump. Yeah, we got the server connected to fucking Alpha Bank by Jared Kushner during the last days of the campaign. We got the server he was trying to connect to fucking Russia for the back channel between them and the Russian embassy. So we're parsing words when treason is far too much of an important word to be parsing. Okay? Not only has this idea of a Justice Department guideline been proven completely ineffectual, within the confines of this very investigation, no less. But then furthermore, the House has already indicated that it cannot be relied upon to effectively impeach someone, even when Pelosi's in charge. The Senate hasn't quite been organizing obstruction on a massive scale, but there's certainly been obstruction within the Senate. And there's been massive amounts of obstruction on the side of the House. So you can't even with a Democratic majority, rely on the House and the Senate to impeach, slow process, a national security threat to this country. And that's what Trump is. That's what we really need to get through our thick fucking skulls. He is a national security threat to the entire Western Alliance. Speaking of Western Alliance, we got the good old YouTube Western Alliance going. Howdy, Mr. Conway. Now, what do you think of the title of this stream, Mr. Conway? Before I continue, what do you think the clickability? Russia is behind terrorism, Trump indictment, because war equals treason. Why do I have the wide camera on? I don't need the wide camera on. There we go, shadow camera. You can't see when I do this. I do miss the laptop. Right? Very high chance we'll see trolls, that's for sure. But like, okay. Think of terms of... Is that a sentence? Think of it in terms of how Google is supposed to work, how YouTube is supposed to work, you know? How do people who like to research things, or who just like to see trending new shit, how do they go on YouTube and use it? You know? What do? They scroll from recently uploaded. Search for one word or something like that. So apparently nobody's searching for Russia. Nobody ever searches for Russia. Nobody ever gives a shit about Russia. Nobody ever is curious about Russia. They just invade countries and fucking steal elections and shit, and nobody just Googles them. Right. The way it averages out with the number of users actually on YouTube is you could have basically a standby screen up, and there would be 600 people total watching it because of just the number of people who would click and see for 3 seconds that there's nothing there. just that number of people just curiously clicking on some random shit. But when it comes to live streams, recent uploads, that kind of thing, scrolling through what's on right now, scrolling through live streams, there should probably be at least 3.5 million people interested in the subject of Russia on YouTube right now. They, if given the opportunity to scroll past the title of this video, would obviously click it, because the title is Russia is Behind Terrorism. Trump Indictment. War Treason. This is a very present and trending subject matter to be discussing. Because we have this other legalistic opinion that's about to get solved, man. You see, supposedly somebody isn't guilty of treason unless we're at war. Well, what about the war on terrorism? What is that image? That is not the image. That is not a war on terrorism image. We are going to, however, go through some of those images I pulled up last night. I hate to be repeating myself, but I realized, last night's video was another fine example of how it's ridiculous that so few people are allowed to see these videos. And here my laptop with nothing but YouTube streaming software and Google just gets hacked to the shit to where the point where right now when my confirmation dialog boxes show up, yes, no, or cancel, I have to have the options memorized because there's no text on the buttons. Yes, my computer is hacked to shit. And what was the deciding factor? Why did it get so much worse? Google Chrome. According to the antitrust suit against Microsoft, I thought telling somebody they had to use Google Chrome in order to use something else was effectively extortion. But, I guess that takes into effect reality. You have to let us help the Russian hackers hack you, or else you can't use, say, YouTube live streaming, for instance. Or I have to download this software from China. And every other software is either from China or has a bunch of Russians on the fucking team that made it. And I went and I looked at all of the fucking companies that made all these softwares that they have for streaming. I looked through the fucking personnel sections. Okay? Why can't we have anything made by America anymore? Now, I understand how saying this might sound fucking crazy to anyone who hasn't seen the evidence that I have already presented and that I will be presenting some more of here in a second. But, Russia's fucking behind terrorism. Russia's been in support of terrorism the whole time. Muammar Gaddafi was backed by the Russians the whole time. Muammar Gaddafi was the godfather of terrorism. Until Osama bin Laden came around, you couldn't hear nothing about the fucking news in the whole world without hearing about Muammar fucking Gaddafi. Long live paint! This is Muammar Gaddafi. I am sending 6 Libyan missiles to attack the Sears hardware. Long live paint! So think about the greater reality here. Think about the level of extortion taking place every time they tell you have to download Chrome. When Google is complicit with Russian hacking. It's effectively saying you have to have this foreign soldier in your house, or else you don't get these basic services. Are we to have a philosophical debate about what service should be considered basic? Oh, I think free speech at a level that is capable of maintaining competitiveness, that is the government's responsibility to ensure, and it is a civil rights violation and illegal for any company to participate in the violation of. But when it comes to the difference between what Trump is obviously guilty of, racketeering, and what Trump needs to be considered guilty of in order for our country to actually heal and move forward. Now, I'm not just saying in terms of the Justice Department memorandum or whatever, the guidelines. I'm not just saying in terms of you can't rely on Congress when it's something so important, and Congress has already been proven to obstruct justice in this matter. Okay? I'm talking about for the greater good of the American people, so that the bullies in school don't think it's okay to grab her by the pussy. Okay? So that people don't think it's okay that somebody ran for political office by saying little Marco Rubio and Lion Ted and low energy Jeb. And I mean, are you fucking kidding me? From the party that said they were going to restore dignity to the White House because they wanted to take a little Russian girl's word for blowing the president? Oh yeah, that's right, because the Cold War was over, right? We all see how over the Cold War was now. Rule number 1, why YouTube is scared shitless of me, why they suppress this channel. Because I am the path to their repentance. And that is the truth that I have laid out. Okay, by I mean my life, what I've done. I've basically lived my entire life to become the truth. To say, look, here's what I believe, here's what the people in the world are suffering from because they don't believe it. Let me go and suffer with them so that I can understand. And I've never met anyone who damn near committed spiritual suicide just to help save others. Okay, and that's who you're subscribed to right now, if you're watching my channel. I love so deeply, I've prayed to God in anger, saying that I'd go to hell just to rescue someone. And now I see the entire world needs rescuing. And I wonder what other sick fuck took it upon themselves to do the stupid shit that I did that would let them see how clearly I see things. Because you really have to understand everyone at every level to be able to see how this whole fucking conspiracy, how this whole plan against our country has been playing out. Not how it's gonna play out. We don't rely on predictions around here. Just because I happen to make the most accurate predictions on the internet, that's not why I want people to subscribe to this channel. This is about understanding the past in a more comprehensive way so that we don't keep making the same fucking mistakes, and so, God forbid, people can actually see the road behind them to know where they should be heading. For people to be able to see the fucking trail of bullshit behind them so that they know how they get to be stinking so bad. Because if you can't convince someone, hey, you've been wading through bullshit, you need to fucking shower, it's going to be pretty hard to baptize them. They know, no, I smell like roses, motherfucker. What are you talking about? That's not a road of bullshit. That's a road of periwinkles and daffodils. Treason, folks. Did Donald Trump conspire with an enemy during a time of war? Well, pick a war, any war. Which one do you want to say is the war that means we're at war with Russia? You got the war on terrorism. That's a war, isn't it? You got the word war right in there. That's what W-A-R spells, right? Last I checked, I knew the English fucking language, and war on terror was war. Right? It's not like the war on drugs. But let's just play that out for a second, since I just brought that up. If there was a cartel leader who held Americans hostage down there in South America, a really brown guy, really brown, really dark-skinned, really not white, really brown, last name Rodriguez or something all Spanish-y. Ew. Fuck's sake. Maduro. Oh. Let's just call him Bodega. Let's call him Bodega. Mr. Bodega in South America. Hidalgo. Bodega. Hidalgo. Bodega. I will never forget the day that I had 2 pizzas to deliver this one fucking route. One was to Hidalgo Street, and one was to Bodega Street. And I could find neither of these streets. So I was driving around in my Integra. I'm not sure which Integra. I think it was the old one, the old blue one. Life for me should just be a history of Integras I used to drive, but yeah. And I was just sitting there reading Hidalgo, 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 bodega, 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 Hidalgo, bodega. Just, the more I mumbled it, the more fun I had fucking saying it, and I just wound up just like a conquistador, just Hidalgo, bodega. Anyway, so apparently on one of those streets there was a Colombian drug lord, and I don't remember if he tipped very well, but eventually he got his pizza. No, wait, that's not how this story was supposed to end. So, imagine there's this guy. Now he's got rebels, and they're going against the American-backed government, and they seize political power, and he's a drug lord, and the war on terror is being fought against him, right? I mean, the war on drugs, right? And you're seeing in the news like Gaddafi, like back in the day. Only this guy's a brown-skinned, Hispanic-named communist drug lord in South America. And somebody goes and builds him a fucking hotel. And he pays them a hell of a lot of money. And in exchange, that hotel builder is going to go lobby a congressman, get a law passed, something like that, to make things easier for this foreign, brown-skinned drug cartel lord dictator person. During the war on terror, the war on drugs, the war on drugs, right? And I'm talking, these people have American hostages. We're bombing their fucking little training camps. We're bombing their their drug processing facilities. They're bombing our friends. We're bombing their friends. And this guy goes and does a deal with them. He's guilty of treason, right? Because there's a war on drugs, right? If you don't remember, if you're not old enough, back in the 80s and 90s, before the war on terror, the war on drugs was a big fucking deal. And all these different little South American and Grenada and all these different little dictators around the world, communism and drug smuggling seem to spread simultaneously. Cocaine and heroin, mostly. Same shit, different day. They'd be guilty of treason, wouldn't they? Just some random fuck, somebody you never heard of, gets paid $5 billion to build a $2 billion hotel, something like that, right? $5 million to build a $2 million, wait, hold up. $2 billion hotel, that's a serious fucking hotel, right? Is it stealth? Yeah, all in all, the shit that I say on this channel, while connecting reality in a way that the Russians don't like, I don't exactly make really outlandish claims here. Even when I'm sitting there remembering Dream Quest shit, we always wind up tying it to something that makes it like, oh crap, maybe that's a real thing. You know, even when we go crazy, we still tie it back to reality. But when it comes to talking about reality, I don't talk about a random report that's unverified here and there. I stick to facts that are simply major things of history that people should fucking know. But for some reason, when it comes to perceiving the world, they are blind to these things. It's okay to work with Russia? Are you fucking kidding me? Russia has been behind spreading everything that a supposed conservative doesn't like about the world. All while spreading propaganda to make them more bitter about it. And not only have they been behind the spread of anti-capitalist communism that is essentially a combination of enslavement and a drug running operation. Narcos is one of the most popular series on Netflix. I thought that sounded familiar. Yeah, I've seen that in Crossing when I scrolled Netflix. But Russia is behind a hell of a lot worse than just hacking shit. Okay? They have been, for years now, invading one of our allies. This is when I started this channel. Okay? Then go lay down. Now, after seeing how these protests were used to take government facilities with basically Russian Spetsnaz, how these protests were organized, how these protests were instigated by Russia, how they accused the West of doing things that just people were fucking doing. Seeing what George Soros was and wasn't involved in, for instance. He wasn't involved in this. And I think maybe Bill Browder was. I know the EU. Because of their support for, just democracy movements in general. And some other private funders were trying to support this pro-EU movement in Ukraine. Okay. But this was a popular movement. You see, a corporation can only get so much influence. The EU only has so much influence. The core of their influence is a message. And if that message rings true, you have working people, old people, students, a massive crowd like that showed up in Ukraine day after day after day, because they didn't want to be allied with Russia. They wanted to be allied with the West. They didn't want Yankovic, which is Putin's little crony, running their country into the ground in much the same way that Trump is running ours right now. And when they started invading Ukraine, we spoke against them, as did the whole West. But when those Russians took over the Donetsk shopping mall, they didn't put an EU flag in the doorway for people to wipe their muddy boots on. They put an American flag there. That's a real American flag with a real fucking Russian wearing real Adidas. Wiping his feet on it. But this is okay? Here you have Kadyrov. Led a rebellion against Russia that helped Putin rise to power. Putin then put him in charge of the area that he was leading the rebellion in. Just understand this. Understand how fucked your minds are by the people who aren't discussing this. Okay? Before any of this shit happened, $10 years ago, 20 years ago, in the late 90s, when Putin was rising to power, Russia had a war in Chechnya. And this guy and this guy were enemies. Vladimir Putin's entire rise to power was supposedly based on his heroic leadership against The Islamic terrorists. What Islamic terrorists? No, not those Islamic terrorists. The ones that blew up that building that they couldn't get their story straight on the investigation of. Oh yeah, when they saw when they had Russian agents there, and at first they said it was an exercise. It's a wonder why they kept on using that line of bullshit to try to make people paranoid about the United States government. Most Russians would know what I'm talking about. Oh, I wish I could remember the name of the town. Remember that little documentary that we watched, Conway? What was the name of that little place? And they had people in on that little Russian talk show. And people are bullshitting us. Well, I guess some bullshit is just harder to think about. I guess some bullshit is harder to shovel. Because here's some bullshit that nobody else but me talks about. But it's obviously some really thick, like, petrified fucking, I don't know, like, some serious bullshit. Oh, was that the... I think I had a troll interested for a little while. But then they had to register the narcissistic tirade and pretend to be displeased by it. Because, the claim I was just making wasn't at all legitimate. Nobody else has talked about this at all. Okay? The leader of fucking Chechnya fought against Putin in Chechnya. Mr. Conway, am I going crazy? Am I going crazy? Does this not seem right to you? There you go, wet, smelly bullshit. Like bullshit that makes you wonder what the cows have been eating. Okay, who took these cows to Taco Bell? What the hell is going on? Are these cows eating other cows with diarrhea? Holy shit. Hey Bessie, what you been eating? Diarrhea. Okay. Might want to stop that. It's giving you diarrhea. Stop eating diarrhea. You won't have diarrhea. Right. That's what that documentary was about, remember? They had they had caught 2 fucking Russian agents, FSB people, or something like that, with explosive shit in their trunk, going away from that building right before it fucking exploded. And the fucking Russian media was all over this back at the time. Putin's, of course, long since consolidated it. I mean, they had a massive media war going on in Russia. But Kadyrov was, and this is his bio, right? This is his bio. You've seen it. Kadyrov, at the point where the Russians were fucking invading Chechnya, Kadyrov was one of the opposing generals. He was a rebel leader. Now, I don't know enough about the situation to tell you what he was doing on the ground or anything, but I see that reference over and over again, and I'm just like, 2 + 2 is 4, not 5. Terrorist rebel leader plus anti-terrorist leader of country does not equal friends. Yet they're friends. How? Unless it's what they had in mind all along. But it's not like these guys could have ever plotted anything sinister. I mean, you know, they're just such nice looking guys. Pretty sure that's an actual demon. Like, holy fuck. I don't want to see that guy drunk. Okay, man. I mean, that's him when he's sober. Okay? That's all I'm saying. We don't see why. We don't see how. We don't even see that. They've infiltrated our very thought processes, our democratic processes. Right now, Kadyrov is putting gay people in concentration camps. And if you ask him about it, he'll tell you, of course we're not doing anything like that. Because there are no gay people in Chechnya. Oh yeah, that's what he says when you ask him and he denies. There aren't any concentration camps. There can't be. Because there are no gay people in Chechnya. Now, before I point out the disparity between Russia's support of that kind of shit and Mr. Liberalism Noam Chomsky there on RT, and how the fucking communists have been promoting populism forever while basically marching fascism right up behind it. Let's just stop for a second to talk about gay people, shall we? Does God hate fags? Huh? Is that it? God hates gay people, right? Oh yeah, because the Bible says so. Apparently, Even though the anti-Semites who like to quote the Old Testament don't seem to recall that Jews wrote it. There's a bit of problem with all that. And of course, this would be funnier if I could find the images in time. Damn it. Let's see. Where is it? Of course, I was just starting to get the hang of these images when I stopped using my laptop for a while. I'm looking for two different images. One of a verse in the Bible by the baby Jesus that kind of contradicts the whole idea that God hates fags. And then there's the other image, which is the reason why I'm saying it in this phrasing, which would otherwise be really obnoxious. And God does not hate homosexuals. I'm saying God hates fags, quote, because, damn it, where is it? My stupid little image. It's hilarious. So when I find it, the hilarity will be apparent. Maybe. I don't know. Fuck is it? Little punk rock guy holding the sign. Oh, wait. It's, shit. No. Just hold on. Hold on. Where the fuck is it? Shit. Nothing should ever take this long. Oh, there's one copy of it that I knew I had. This one. Now, I know that the guy on the right is probably a propagandized little Bernie baby. Really? And it's time for bullshit, folks. And we're back. It seems that the best strategy for getting the broadcast to reinvigorate itself is to get the screen clear so I can show that I'm just having a red fucking stream for no reason while I'm on my top tier cable modem with nothing else streaming. Oh no, correction. There is a device streaming back there. But frankly, I should be able to have 5 different TVs going at once on my fucking internet connection. Okay, that's why I bitch, is because I have a $90 a month fucking cable modem. We're on the little you pay this much for 2 years thing, but we still have the top. Actually, I don't know if we're still in the trial period. I gotta make sure we're not. No, it was only like a year ago that we upgraded, right? Anyways. So. I tell you what, Mr. Conway. I am myself. I don't want to say extremely picky about the content that I watch on YouTube, but I'm pretty damn picky. And maybe I'm a different type of picky because I did that thing where I switched schools a bunch of times and kept telling people that I hadn't taken theater class yet so that I could get into theater class over and over again. So I wound up in a whole lot of theater class, so I wound up with a very refined sense of performance art. Okay? And when it comes to somebody unable to construct sentences properly, not the occasional stutter like me, or someone who speaks in monotones, or someone who's just sitting there reading with their eyes right in the light and just sitting there reading and telling you what they're reading, and I can't watch shit like that. But I find myself occasionally watching my own videos to review. The other day I had to see myself white boy rap. I mean, I had to see that, right? But yesterday I saw one from the day before. But I wound up actually getting sucked in a little bit, listening to the subject matter. And I saw my wife sitting there getting sucked in a little bit. And I'm like, fuck, I'm keeping her face out of Facebook. Just for a few minutes. She's not looking at Facebook. This must be a pretty damn entertaining broadcast. All I'm saying is, I think that I don't have that problem with monotone speech. I think, despite my head injury and my teeth fucking decaying, that I can still speak on par with most radio hosts and announcers and things like that. I think. I know the subject we cover is the most groundbreaking subject there is. Okay? I know that much. So why the fuck isn't anybody like me? I just caught myself whining and decided to make the most of it. Just saying, objectively, this is not exactly an unappealing format. And I'm not even talking about the videos like this. You know, we used to have much higher production quality, and this is it, folks. This is, you know, I'd rather sit there and stare at a fish tank while thinking about these deep subjects. And, you know, I've just done what I can to make this seem like a cozy little place to hang out. You can come here, you chat, you see your chat on the screen. Since I did this, did you notice how every gaming channel did the same thing? I'm full of good ideas, I just can't get fucking credit for any of them. Which is why I have a notebook sitting next to me that's worth $110 billion. I said, whoa, wait a minute. That whole habit I used to have of putting my good ideas in sketchbooks, let me go ahead and get back to that. And speaking of getting back to stuff, let me get back to this. So you got your Old Testament anti-Semites, because that makes sense. But then, oh, I may have deleted it, but I know exactly where this one is now. It's in the Tweets SD folder, 3/5 of the way down. Is that the one? Yeah, I think that's the one. I can tell that one by the small icon because of the little monkey there. Because, you know, that's the same monkeys never looking as is the feature of all Shilliverse trollism. There's no such thing as Russia. And the same people say there's no such thing as this verse in the Bible. In that night, there shall be 2 men and 1 bed. I wonder how big the bed is. One shall be taken and the other shall be left. Two women shall be grinding together. Oh, I love it when they grind together, don't you? Hashtag me too. Two women shall be grinding together. Let's all just dwell on that thought together for a while. Take a break from all your worries. I'm sorry. One thing you can't do is be stressed out while watching lesbians do their thing. Oh. Doesn't matter who you are. It's just like, oh, well, that's relaxing. Oh, look, they're dancing together. Oh, okay. I can pay attention to nothing else. Lesbians dancing is like the Obama mic drop of reality. It's just like there's nothing really that your eyes need to see anymore. There's nothing left for the world to say. It's like, oh, this is why I have these holes in my face. This is why light is allowed into my skull. See me. I'm definitely picturing the good old days back when gypsies didn't have coins all over them. And it meant a whole different thing. And I mean, I'm talking 3 definitions ago. Before there was a slavery in Egypt, gypsy meant a whole different thing, which is why the word gypsy has such an alluring quality today. I suppose that might have actually been the origin of the name for Egypt itself. That's interesting. The whole backwards inversion thing. You go back far enough and it's the word that starts the history, not the history that starts the word. But that's, I suppose, only in my memories. Anyways. See? When I get crazy, I acknowledge that was crazy. So now we're going to move back on to, what is this about? What's it all about, Alfie? See, I'm not actually singing What's It All About, Alfie, when I sing that. I'm singing Roland T. Flackpfizer in jail on Brain Donors, the movie, singing What's It All About, Alfie. It's like I don't do a George W. Bush, I mean, I don't do a George H.W. Bush impression. I do an impression of Dana Carvey's George H.W. Bush impression. Not gonna do it. Anyway. How shall we know the hour of judgment? How shall we be prepared, O Lord? On the housetop. Remember seeing people on the housetop? Mr. Conway, you ain't from here, that's for damn sure. Are you thinking what I'm thinking when you think of people on housetops? Because you want to talk about something that instantly gets me, man. Maybe my impression is skewed. think I'm the only one. Who thinks about Hurricane Katrina and the way a whole fucking city of 400,000 people, or 1.2 million in the GNO, in the whole greater New Orleans area, 250,000 displaced from Orleans Parish alone. The total population of the areas submerged was 400,000 people. $500,000 people total displaced. So not that lost their homes, but that couldn't even get back into their neighborhoods because so many other people in that neighborhood were flooded. Or they had the one dry part of the neighborhood, but then there was no stores, no jobs, no nothing left. You know why my heart went out to the people in Ukraine? Seeing that devastation, that desperation, that these people are stuck in this limbo of what the Soviets left them. It reminded me of driving through New Orleans after Katrina. And going and seeing where my mom's house used to be. She hadn't even lived there that long. You know, it's not like I'm getting choked up thinking about this place where I grew up or anything like that. I went and seen the places that I had lived before. They were okay. All of my old houses are fine. But where my mom lived, she got 14 feet of water. Look around where you at right now. Tell me what the fuck you would do with 14 feet of water. And a day's notice. Can you imagine? I'm sorry you had to go through that, Mom. Please forgive me. And now she's dead to cancer. And so are a whole lot of people's mamas. You know how many Katrina survivors have died of overdoses and suicide and cancer? Tell you what, let me speak very clearly and plainly when I say this. Someone who lacked sanity could not endure the things that I endure on a regular basis, according to all psychological theory, according to all doctrinal analysis on the subject, if I was capable of suffering a schizophrenic break conducive or consistent with someone delusionally mistaking themselves for the Messiah, I would not have been able to experience the intense and repetitive trauma, in addition to the overwhelming circumstances which should induce feelings of extreme hopelessness in someone in a delusional state, without having taken my own life. And let me just be even more clear. Most of the people in the world, I'm talking 99.9% of the people in the world, and especially all of those who actually claim to be normal or sane, could not have endured a quarter of the bullshit that I've gone through. Without getting in their car and putting a cinder block on the accelerator and just seeing where it takes them. So there's two very logical proofs that I cannot be a crazy person. First of all, just look at the overwhelming stress that I've been under for my entire life. The fact that I haven't fucking killed myself. Period. Okay? According to everything that our government knows about the human brain, that makes me a sane person. Okay? No matter how abnormal I may appear. The second is, I got the jokes, baby. I know what your response is going to be to a certain extent. Before I say something, I know how to make people laugh. I know how to make people cringe. I know how to make just my friends laugh, just people who just get certain things, while pissing off trolls. You see, empathy, the lack of sociopathy, understanding what other people are thinking and going through, and actually concerning yourself with such things. That is the opposite of insanity. When it all comes down to it, if anything, what I do here and the whole, baby Jesus thing, it's the exact opposite of a narcissistic delusion. You know what my narcissistic delusion is? You know what thing that I want sometimes almost every day? To not give a shit. To plan out a comfortable life for myself. And just focus on that instead. to sit there and tell myself, you know, it's only your happiness that matters. And plan out a life like my dad's. Oh, how can I get myself a fucking condo in Florida and a couple cars to impress women with and stuff like that and whatever. Did you notice how the second viewer came on for that interesting new piece of information? And in addition to being right about, generally speaking, I know whether or not something I'm going to say is funny. I know whether or not I'm being boring on here. I'm sane enough to be an effective performance artist. I'm sane enough to, unlike, say, Robin Williams, talk consistently and coherently about a subject. I'm sane enough to, without cue cards or notes, get completely distracted from a subject and, more often than not, get back to it on my own. Occasionally I have compiled things that, make me forget, but fuck. Mental flawlessness and sanity are two different things. I've just learned the benefit of letting imagination go so that I can put likelihoods to speculations. Because if you don't do that, all you're ever going to know is what you've been told. And that, to me, is a schizophrenic narcissistic delusion. Because then you're telling yourself that you live in a world without liars. What a world that would be. But that's not the world we live in. So it's basically my conclusion that in order to tell yourself I'm crazy, in order to reject, I don't know what it is you're rejecting, basic obvious truth, that would make you the delusional one. As opposed to the guy on YouTube who thinks he's Jesus. Yeah, you're more delusional than that guy. Congratulations. See, objectively, I understand how fucking idiotic I seem on paper. Yeah. But then, what are my options? YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, last I checked. 3 entities compromised by Russia. Oh wait, is that delusion? No, that's something I've proven. Consistently. For years now. Not only consistent with individual pieces of evidence, but consistently and fluidly continuing to prove it in real time. It's like not even something that I can prove now as effectively as we've been proving, you know? For anybody who's been seeing how this shit's unfolded, for Mr. Conway, for instance, oh, it's proven. It's like, you know, cars go when you hit on the gas pedal. Proven. It's something that anybody who's been in that fucking car, who's hit the gas pedal, knows that's gonna happen. Get fucking... That's how cars works. That's how YouTube works. We've been here. We've been fucking seeing it. Meanwhile, we got people, you mean you have a buggy that goes on its own accord without horses pulling it? That simply cannot be. There you go. Mr. Conway says regarding YouTube being basically an agent of Russia, 100% proven fact. Probably my most consistent viewer. Although Maximo's probably still in and out, just it's less stressful for him to just be a quiet little Maximo, and that's fine. Pure souls are better off having pure prayers. Because there's rotten old soldiers like me. And then there's children of the goddess, who the world needs to be happy, to be focused on nature. And without people like that, it'll all fall apart a hell of a lot quicker than it is. The consequences of humanity's actions. Let me just talk crazy. Let me speak like I'm me for a second, and I'll acknowledge that this is just me speaking like I'm me. So if you believe me that I'm me, believe me when I'm saying this. The consequences of humanity's actions are past due. In fact, even though I'm in a good mood right now, that warning by itself carries so much weight that we will see at this moment what has happened to commemorate it. I'm seeing red. But I'm seeing more things than I'll probably get on my scroll. Anyways. yeah, Snapchat for sure is compromised. And let me just say this. Anything with unsecured graphics, anything with interchangeable graphics, is very easy to compromise. Going back to Windows XP. Okay? Here's what I learned. This. You see how my windows are gray? Let me just see what kind of play out projector. Okay. Hold on. Okay. Apparently they're no longer doubling up the ad source thing. Okay. Screen capture. Oh, damn. It's updated. Okay. Oh, okay. No big deal. But anyways, you can see that even here on Windows 10, oh, come on, don't freeze on me. Oh, come on.